All right, so today we are going deep, really deep into something you probably haven't given much thought to, but trust me, it's way more interesting than it
Oh
sounds.
yeah, I'm already intrigued.
We're talking about the world of laboratory furniture. Yeah, you heard that right. The stuff scientists use every day. Tables, benches, cabinets, you name it. We've got this really in-depth report that breaks down this surprisingly significant global market.
I actually had no idea it was such a big deal.
Right, and the numbers are pretty mind-blowing.
So, like, how big are we talking?
Well, hold on to your lab coats because in 2025 alone, this market is estimated to be worth a whopping USD 140 million.
Wow, 2,140 million. That's a lot of lab stools.
Exactly. And get this, by 2033, it's projected to reach, wait for it, USD 43.29 million.
So, pretty healthy growth rate then.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We're looking at a steady CAGR, that's compound annual growth rate, of 4.50%. So, yeah, this market is definitely on the move. And that's what we're going to unpack today, all the forces driving this global expansion.
Sounds like a fascinating deep dive.
Oh, it is. And we've got a great source for this deep dive. A real treasure trove of information.
Lay it on me.
This report is comprehensive. We're talking over 250 pages in its 8th edition, hot off the press as of February 2025. They've used 2024 as their base year, pulled historical data from 2021 to 2024, gave us that 2025 estimate, and then projected all the way to 2033.
Impressive. And what about data formats? For those who like to crunch numbers themselves.
Oh, they've got you covered. PDF, Excel, PowerPoint, even cloud access if you're feeling fancy. So yeah, a proper deep dive for the data enthusiasts out there.
Sounds like they thought of everything.
They really did. So where do we even begin? I mean, this market spans the globe.
Well, I think a good place to start is the regional breakdown. Where is this market concentrated right now? And where's the action, so to speak, headed in the future?
Okay, so let's start with the big kahuna, North America. As of 2025, they're holding a pretty commanding lead, accounting for over 40% of the global market revenue.
Over 40%. That's a sizable chunk.
Yeah, we're talking about USD 791.80 million. And they're still projected to grow at a decent CAGR of 3.0% from 2025 to 2033.
So even though their growth rate might not be the highest, their current market share is huge.
Exactly. And if we zoom in a little closer, the United States is the big player within North America. USD 624.73 million market size in 2025, growing at about 2.8%. Then you've got Canada trailing a bit behind at USD 95.02 million, but with a slightly stronger CAGR of 3.8%.
Interesting. I wonder what's behind that difference in growth rates.
Yeah, and then there's Mexico, sitting at USD 72.05 million, growing at 3.5%. So, subtle variations within the region.
It probably has something to do with the different research priorities and funding landscapes in each country.
That's a good point. But overall, North America is clearly a major force in the laboratory furniture world.
No doubt about it. But what's actually fueling this North American dominance?
Well, the report points to a few key drivers. One is the constant flow of R&D investments. I mean, North America is a hub for innovation, so that makes sense.
Makes sense. More research, more labs, more need for the furniture that goes in them.
Exactly. And speaking of labs, the number of those is growing too, especially in fields like life sciences and material sciences. Those are hot areas right now.
And I imagine they're pretty demanding when it comes to the lab setup itself.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about basic functionality anymore. The report emphasizes the need for durable furniture. I mean, it's got to withstand all sorts of experiments and conditions.
Right, it's got to be tough.
And then there's ergonomics. Scientists spend hours and hours in the lab, so comfort and support are super important.
Oh yeah, no one wants a backache from a poorly designed lab stool.
And then there's the trend towards modular design. Labs need to be flexible. They need to adapt to different projects and changing research needs. So the furniture has to be adaptable too.
So it's kind of like building blocks, right? You can reconfigure things as needed.
Precisely. And we can't forget about the growing interest in smart technology and sustainability. Labs are becoming more high-tech and environmentally conscious.
It's about making labs more efficient, safer, and more responsible.
Absolutely. So that's North America, a mature market still growing and with some clear trends shaping its future.
Okay, so now let's hop across the pond to Europe. Where do they stand in all of this?
Europe's a major player too, no surprise there. They account for over 30% of global revenue.
So another big chunk of the market.
Yeah, although there's a slight discrepancy in the report here. The text mentions USD 13056.48 million for 2025, but the table clearly states USD 620.6 million.
That's a pretty big difference.
Yeah, I think we should go with the table data on this one, and their projected CAGR is 3.6% from 2025 to 2033.
A solid growth rate.
Definitely. Now, if we look at individual countries, the UK is estimated at USD 104.26 million in 2025, with a TAGR of 4.4%.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad at all.
And Germany, always a powerhouse, is even larger at USD 122.88 million, growing at 3.8%. France comes in at USD 57.10 million with a 2.8 precise CAGR, and Italy at USD 53.37 million, growing at 3.0%.
So a pretty diverse range of market sizes and growth rates.
Yeah, and even Russia, amidst everything going on, has a substantial market at USD 96.19 million, although with a more modest TGR of 2.6%.
Right, and then you've got Spain at USD 50.89 million, growing at 2.7%, and smaller but still noteworthy markets like Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, even Luxembourg.
Exactly, and all the rest of Europe combined adds up to USD 86.88 million with a CR of 2.3%. So yeah, quite a bit of variation across the continent.
It really highlights the different scientific landscapes and research priorities across Europe.
Absolutely. And one thing the report really emphasizes for Europe is the impact of their stringent safety regulations.
Oh yeah, Europe's known for its strict standards.
Exactly. And those standards really drive the demand for specialized, high-quality furniture. Think about fume hoods, chemical-resistant surfaces, safety storage cabinets. All that stuff's got to meet those regulations.
And that makes sense, right? Labs need to be safe environments, no cutting corners on that.
Absolutely. Now, let's shift gears and head over to a region that's really seeing some explosive growth, Asia Pacific, or APAC, as it's often called.
I'm ready for some big numbers.
Oh, you got it. Their current market share is around 23% of the global total, with a market size of USD 513.60 million in 2025.
Okay, that's significant.
But the real kicker is their projected CAGR, a whopping 7.2% from 2025 to 2033.
Wow, that's way ahead of North America and Europe.
Oh yeah, they're really catching up fast. And
Yeah.
the individual country figures really tell the story. China, of course, is a major player, USD 215.71 million in 2025, growing at a solid 6.7%.
China's investing heavily in research and development, so that tracks.
Yep. And Japan, while a more established scientific force, is still growing steadily at 5.7%, with a market size of USD 70.88 million. Then you've got South Korea at USD 61.63 million, with a CGR of 6.3%.
So steady growth across the board.
And then there's India. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. India's market is currently USD 51.36 million, but their projected growth rate is the highest mentioned in the entire report.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. What's the number?
9.1%.
9.1%. Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, India is definitely one to watch in the coming years. And Australia is no slouch either, USD 26.71 million with a 6.5% CAGR. Then you've got Singapore at 7.5%, Taiwan at 7.0%, Southeast Asia as a whole at a whopping 8.0%, and the rest of APAC combined at a robust 7.0%.
Well, it's a combination of factors. The report points to the expansion of their pharmaceutical, biotech, and healthcare sectors.
Yeah, those are all areas where laboratory work is essential. And there's a huge increase in R&D investment across the region, often fueled by government initiatives.
Governments are putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to scientific advancement.
Exactly. And then you've got the growth of educational institutions, more universities, more research labs, more demand for furniture.
It is a whole ecosystem that's flourishing.
Absolutely. So yeah, APAC is a region with a lot of momentum in the laboratory furniture market.
A real force to be reckoned with.
Now let's head south. South America might not be as big a player as North America or Europe, but they're still holding their own.
So what kind of market share are we talking about?
Well, they account for over 5% of global revenue, with a market size of USD 31.32 million in 2025. And their projected CAGR is a respectable 5.2% from 2025 to 2033.
5.2%. That's a pretty solid growth rate.
It is. And if we break it down, Brazil is the biggest market within South America, USD 34.80 million, going at 5.8%.
Brazil's got a pretty diverse economy, so I'm not surprised they're a leader in this area.
And Argentina is actually showing the strongest growth in the region, 6.1% CAGR, with a market size of USD 13.66 million.
Interesting. I wonder what's driving that accelerated growth in Argentina.
Could be a number of things, maybe targeted investments in specific research areas or maybe a surge in their biotech industry.
Yeah, could be.
And then you've got Colombia at USD 7.24 million, Peru at USD 6.67 million, Chile at USD 5.86 million, and all the rest of South America combined at USD 13.09 million.
So a good mix of countries contributing to South America's overall growth.
Definitely. And what's fueling this growth? Well, the report points to increasing investments in healthcare, pharmaceuticals, biotech, academic research, all those areas that rely heavily on labs.
It's about building up those scientific capabilities and infrastructure.
Exactly. And similar to Europe, South America is also seeing a push towards stricter safety regulations, which, as we discussed, can really drive the demand for more advanced and specialized furniture.
Yeah, because those regulations often dictate the types of materials and features that lab furniture needs to have.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've covered North America, Europe, and South America. Now let's venture into the Middle East.
All right, I'm curious to see what's happening there.
Well, the Middle East currently holds about 2% of the global market share, with a market size of USD 47.08 million in 2025.
So a smaller player compared to the other regions we've discussed.
Yeah, but the projected CAGR is actually quite healthy, 5.8% from 2025 to 2033.
5.8%. That's not too shabby.
Not at all. And looking at individual countries, Qatar has a market size of USD 6.85 million with a 5.3% CAGR. Saudi Arabia is the biggest in the region, USD 30.13 million, growing at 6.1%. And Turkey is showing the highest growth rate in the Middle East, 6.4% CAGR, with a market size of USD 6.85 million.
Huh. That's interesting. Qatar and Turkey have the same market size, but different growth rates.
Yeah, it's an interesting little quirk. The UAE is at USD 17.63 million, growing at 6.3%. Egypt at USD 5.14 million with a CGR of 5.6%. And all the rest of the Middle East combined comes in at USD 19.00 million, growing at 5.0%.
So it seems like there's a lot of potential for growth in the Middle East.
Oh, definitely. And the report points to some key drivers. We're seeing increasing investments in R&D, healthcare, and education infrastructure across the region.
Yeah, those are all essential for fostering a strong scientific community.
Exactly. And those investments naturally lead to the development of more sophisticated labs, which of course drives demand for specialized furniture.
Makes sense. More labs, more furniture. It's a pretty straightforward equation.
And finally, let's wrap up our global tour with a look at Africa.
All right, Africa. What's the situation there?
Well, their market share is currently the smallest, around 1% of global revenue, with a market size of USD 47.08 million in 2025.
Same as the Middle East, huh? Another interesting coincidence.
Yeah, the numbers just kind of worked out that way. But their projected CAGR is still positive, 4.8% from 2025 to 2033.
So steady progress.
Exactly. Now, Nigeria's market is currently USD 3.77 million with a 5.0% CAGR. South Africa is the biggest player in Africa, USD 16.57 million, growing at 5.7%.
South Africa's got a more developed research infrastructure, so it makes sense that they'd be leading the pack.
Right, and all the rest of Africa combined adds up to USD 26.74 million with a CAGR of 4.0%. So yeah, still a relatively small market, but definitely growing.
And what are the main drivers for growth in Africa?
Well, it's similar to what we've seen in other developing regions, increasing investments in healthcare, education, research infrastructure.
Those are fundamental building blocks for any country looking to advance its scientific capabilities.
Absolutely. And these investments are crucial for Africa to address its own unique challenges and priorities.
Right. It's about building local expertise and capacity.
Okay, so we've taken a whirlwind tour of the global laboratory furniture market, seeing how it's distributed across different regions.
Yeah, we've seen the big players, the up-and-comers, and the steady growers.
Now let's zoom in a little bit and talk about the different types of furniture that are driving this demand. The report highlights laboratory tables as, a pretty essential part of any lab.
Yeah, laboratory tables. Those are the workhorses, right? Where all the experiments and testing happens.
Exactly. They need to be durable, able to withstand all sorts of chemicals and conditions. And the report notes their importance in growing sectors like pharmaceuticals, biotech, and education.
So, uh, Pretty wide range of application.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And then there's laboratory stools and benches, which the report identifies as the fastest growing segment.
Really? I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? But it really underscores the increasing focus on ergonomics and workplace safety in labs.
Makes sense. Scientists spend a lot of time uh, standing or sitting at their workstation, so having comfortable and supportive furniture is crucial.
Absolutely. And the report mentions adjustable stools and benches, as well as chemical-resistant options. So yeah, it's about creating a safer and more comfortable work environment.
It's about taking care of the people who are doing the research, right?
Exactly. Now, the report also touches on other important categories like laboratory desk and storage cabinets, pedestal laboratory furniture, laboratory IPS units, that's integrated plumbing systems, for those who aren't familiar.
Ah, yes, the essential plumbing.
And then you've got general storage cabinets and racks. All these things are, well, they're essential for a well-organized and functional lab.
Yeah, keeping everything in its place and easily accessible.
Okay, so we've looked at the furniture itself. Now let's talk about the end users, the people who are actually buying and using this stuff.
All right, so who are the big customers in the laboratory furniture market?
Well, one significant segment is school and colleges laboratories.
Ah, yeah, all those science labs in schools and universities.
Exactly. And the demand here is driven by the ongoing investment in STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Right, got to get the next generation of scientists equipped with the right tools.
And then you've got the medical laboratory segment, which has its own unique set of needs.
Yeah, I imagine medical labs need some pretty specialized furniture.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They require advanced and durable furniture for clinical testing and research. And the demand here is fueled by the expansion of healthcare infrastructure and an ongoing R&D in the medical field.
So it's all about keeping up with the latest advancements in medical technology and treatment.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about how the specialized furniture actually reaches the end users, the distribution channels.
All right, so how does lab furniture get from the manufacturer to the lab?
Well, the report highlights a growing trend towards online sales.
Online. That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought that lab furniture would be something people would buy online.
Yeah, but it makes sense. Online platforms offer a wider variety of products, often at more competitive prices. And, the convenience of ordering from your computer or phone is appealing.
But I imagine there are still limitations to buying lab furniture online, right?
Oh, definitely. And the report actually emphasizes that the offline segment is still the dominant distribution channel.
Yeah, I can see why. For institutions like universities and big research facilities, they often need customized solutions.
Exactly. And those customized solutions often they require in-person consultations and assessments.
Right, you got to make sure the furniture fits the space and meets the specific needs of the lab.
And then there's the importance of after-sales service, installation support, ongoing maintenance.
Yeah, those are all things that are harder to do when you're buying online.
So while online sales are growing, the offline segment is still the main game in town for laboratory furniture.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've looked at the global market, the different types of furniture, the end users, the distribution channels.
Now let's step back and consider some of the bigger trends that are shaping this market.
All right, so what are the forces that are really driving the laboratory furniture industry?
Well, one key driver is the growing demand for sustainable furniture. This is a trend we're seeing across many industries, but it's especially important for labs.
Yeah, labs can generate a lot of waste, so using environmentally friendly materials and practices is crucial.
Absolutely. And another big driver is the rising adoption of automation in laboratories.
Automation, huh? So robots and computers are taking over the lab.
Well, not quite taking over, but they're definitely becoming more prevalent. And this trend has implications for the design of laboratory furniture.
I saw.
Well, you need furniture that can accommodate things like robotic arms, automated testing equipment, all the associated infrastructure.
Right, so the furniture needs to be designed with automation in mind.
Exactly. And that often means specialized layouts, integrated power, and data connections, things like that.
So it's about creating a seamless integration between the furniture and the technology.
Precisely. And then, as we discussed earlier, the need for customizable solutions is a major driver. Labs have very specific needs, so off-the-shelf furniture often doesn't cut it.
Yeah, you got to be able to tailor the furniture to the unique requirements of the lab.
Absolutely. Now, it's not all smooth sailing. The report also points out some market restraints. One of these is, well, ironically, it's environmental concern.
Environmental concerns. But didn't we just say that sustainability was a key driver?
Yeah, it's a bit of a bit of a catch-22. While there's a push for eco-friendly options, the manufacturing and disposal of laboratory furniture can still have a significant environmental impact.
So it's about finding ways to minimize that impact throughout the entire life cycle of the furniture.
Exactly. And another restraint is the potential for limited customization options in some cases.
Hmm. That's interesting. I would have thought that customization would be readily available.
Well, it depends. Sometimes highly specific or unusual designs can be difficult or expensive to achieve.
Right. There are always practical limitations.
Exactly. But despite these restraints, the market is still projected to grow significantly.
So, what does the future hold for laboratory furniture?
Well, the report highlights some key trends to watch. One is the increasing integration of smart technology. Think about benches with sensors that can monitor temperature or detect spills, fume hoods with digitally controlled airflow, adjustable workstations that can be controlled electronically.
So it's about making labs more efficient, safer, and more data driven.
Exactly. And then there's the growing demand for ergonomic and flexible workstations. This ties back to the focus on workplace well-being and adaptability.
Right. It's about creating a lab environment that is both comfortable and conducive to productive research.
Absolutely. And finally, the report identifies some of the key players in this market. Companies like PSC Laboratory Furniture LLC, GE Healthcare Services, Mott Manufacturing Ltd., Institutional Casework, ESCO, Thermo Fisher Scientific Inc., Diversified Woodcrafts Inc., LabConco. It's a competitive landscape with a lot of innovation happening.
Yeah, everyone's vying for a piece of this growing market.
So to wrap things up, the global laboratory furniture market is, well, it's a lot more dynamic and interesting than you might have initially thought. We've seen how it's distributed globally, the different types of furniture in demand, the key end users, the trends shaping the industry.
It's a market that really reflects the broader advancements in science and technology.
And I think what's really fascinating is that, we're talking about furniture here, tables and chairs and cabinets, but these seemingly mundane objects actually represent something much bigger.
What do you mean?
Well, they represent the investment in scientific research, the development of education, the expansion of healthcare infrastructure. These are all crucial for the advancement of society as a whole.
You know, you're right. It's easy to overlook the importance of something like laboratory furniture, but it really is. It's a vital part of the global scientific ecosystem.
Exactly. So the next time you see a picture of a lab, take a moment to think about the furniture, the equipment, the people working there. It's all part of a global effort to push the boundaries of knowledge and innovation. And that's pretty amazing, don't you think?
Absolutely, and it makes you wonder what those labs will look like in the future. What kind of furniture and technology will they be using?
That's a great question. Well, one that only time will tell.
Hmm.
But it's exciting to think about, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. The future of science is it's full of possibilities. And the furniture will be there supporting those possibilities every step of the way.
Well said. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive.
It's been enlightening. And who knew that laboratory furniture could be so fascinating?
You never know where a deep dive will take you.
True. That's the beauty of exploration.
Until next time.
See you then.